Greetings and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jarvis. With me as always is my irradiated companion, Lightning Dragon. So let's jump into some Star Citizen news. First of all, the PTU is now at 3.3.0 AA. This has to be probably one of the longest set of patch runs I've seen for any PTU before going to live, but it seems to be getting better mostly with each particular patch. Obviously there's the off one where things are not as good as the previous one, but they're hammering it out and it's getting more and more stable with each iteration. This week's Around the Verse was actually pretty straightforward. It covered the underground pirate base they showed off at CitizenCon. How they laid it out with white box to set up all the parameters and all the areas where you take cover, and then basically they mashed out different objects that would take those shapes and tested it out, tested the AI, make sure they could run through the area okay. It was really kind of interesting. It was more of a technical show, so if you want more details on that, I really recommend giving it a watch. It's really not that long. So let's get into Reverse the Verse, which was actually a bit longer, obviously. It doesn't take much these days to get longer than Around the Verse, but it was about customizations that you'll find in the verse as they develop. It was more than just physical looks, it was how things are interacting. For example, one of the first things they touched on was how armor will affect damage differently. Now, currently the armor in the game is very simply implemented. What they want to do is have it adjust to your skeleton so that different locations will have different reactions when hit. Right now, the primary armor, the way it acts, is mostly on your chest, and they want to make sure that the armor works appropriately exactly where it is. There was a question about if we'd be able to put a trench coat or a jacket over the top of armor, and it was stated that you're not going to be able to do that, but there will be some armor sets that have baked in jackets and things that will be on that armor by default.
We all need our jackets.
Indeed. And in a very topical kind of question, they want to know if there'd be dyes for hair and armor. Now, hair is probably going to have a good variety of selections, but armor, that's kind of up in the air.
I want blood red hair.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fine.
So red that it bleeds.
That sounds amazing.
Also gory.
Now, it's very possible that as far as color selection goes with armor, it may be dependent upon the manufacturer, and you'll just have a different set of armor to choose from with a different baked-in color.
That's how a lot of armor in Mass Effect was. You had different styles, and there was a little bit of variations based on the manufacturer.
And one of the reasons they're thinking of going this route is that in an MMO environment, it can be taxing to have a lot of customization on armor, and not only just personalized colors, but there's 3 different layers, I think, on the armor is what they said. And if you have, let's say 20 people in a room and they each have their own particular customization, it can be a little bit more memory intensive. So it's one of those things that it just may be baked in sets.
Trying to streamline performance, I can't fault them for that. I don't have a disagreement with them.
No. But, would it be any different if you had 20 people in the room with 20 different sets of armor, with each having its own different color? I mean, I don't know.
I guess it just really depends on how the code works. I mean, maybe it has to load the default texture for the armor, the type of armor it is, any patterns that are on it, and then overlay it with a color. So you might have 2 or 3 extra steps just to be able to change the color or pattern. It may be a lot more intensive than you might think.
Yeah, it's possible. Now, they did state that character customization will be strong enough, will be solid enough that you will be able to recognize a player's face just by looking at them. You'll be able to say, that's Bob, I recognize Bob. That's awesome. One of the reasons they want to do this is that a lot of times in MMOs, for the most part, faces are just you have a few templates and everyone kind of looks the same, and they really want to make sure that you can personalize it. So while you won't be able to scan your face in because the resolution is too low to be effective, if you spend time on it, you should be able to make your character look pretty close to what you actually look like if you really want to go that route.
Oh, please, no. I don't need to be in the game.
I think that might be the first thing you said that every listener may agree with.
Oh, oof, ouch.
They are researching the ability to have different body types, different kind of shapes, fat, thin, and other metrics like that. because they do want to have that variation. The one thing you're not going to find variation in is height. The reason for that is metrics. They have metrics for the chairs, the doors, even the cover system, and it even took them a little while to figure out the metrics of cover for the female characters they're developing, considering the fact that they are shorter and they had to make some adjustments to make cover work for them. Another reason, and I do agree with this, is that this can be abused, and I think Lightning would agree that when you give the people the option to make...
Odd job.
Yeah, exactly. Odd job. There you go. That's all you need to know. Odd job. We've seen other instances
Odd
of this.
job and Jaws.
Exactly. Odd job
when
versus
you wanted
Jaws.
to have, oh geez, what was it? It was a game mode for the GoldenEye, and it was Odd Jobs versus Jaws. So everyone on a team would pick Odd Job, the other one would pick Jaws, and the weapon kind of you could randomize it, but usually it was like slappers only or guns because you couldn't hit anything anytime. It was really bad.
Yeah, and also like in Star Trek Online, you'd have people make these super tiny aliens. I mean, just ridiculously small. And when you went into like the ground battles against them in PvP, everything was covered to them. I mean, everything. It was ridiculous. So yeah, I get wanting to not allow that, to kind of keep more of a in-game balance, and also for metrics. Totally on board with that.
There was a problem more in Champions, I think, but I think eventually they made it so you couldn't go ultra tiny. But I think the legacy character is still stuck around. So if you had previously made an ultra tiny character, and unless you changed it, it stuck. It stayed tiny.
Well, Champions and Star Trek Online, same company.
Yeah, but in Champions, I think it was harder to click on people than Star Trek.
Yeah. And I have one that you saw I could shrink down to the size of your foot, so I totally get that.
Oh, jeez.
There was a question about the Titan suit's development. It is still in early development. They had, I guess, come up with some prototypes earlier, but the problem was that their turn radius would be much too large. So they've been reworking it. Now, they want the Titan suit so that mobile infantry can have something that can be a threat to an oncoming ship.
I can see like two ways to go with it. Obviously, you'd have like an exoskeleton one, which probably has some level of body armor, but maybe it still has exposed spots that someone who's experienced in the game or is faster because they're not wearing heavy armor could exploit, like the sides, or maybe the back has got less armor. But also, I'm a big Mech Warrior fan, so bigger is better.
Well, they actually made a clarification on that. They were adamant about not calling these mech suits. They said the difference is a mech, you're actually sitting in a cockpit, and this is more like an exoskeleton, more like Iron Man. Now, they stated that these suits will have more than just combat functionality. Now, I'm just guessing here. I'm going to say cargo loading. They had talked about a while ago wanting to have us manually load cargo, and if they're developing these suits, it would make sense that you'd be able to pick up a much larger container and then load it in the ship with that, very much like Aliens. And it makes perfect sense. It means they don't have to develop particular mechanics or something new. They basically take the mech suit. I'm just gonna call it that Titan suit, whatever. You grab the box the same way a character would. They have the system in place for that. It picks it up. You walk it in, you set it down. But it can pick up boxes past the size that humans can.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but as I said, that's just a guess. They didn't specify, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, especially if they made like Gravlevs, I guess, where there's like a hand cart basically, and you could have it where you in your actual cargo ship you have a special like dock area for these exoskeleton power armors or whatever. I think they'd be a lot more simplistic if they were for cargo loading. They wouldn't need all that bulky armor and stuff, and it'd be more of just a pure exoskeleton. But you could have like a docking bay where they kind of fold up into, and you could have like one or two depending on the size of the ship. And then you could have people that get out of the ship and actually load it, as in like a job or a task for people to do. And that would be, I guess, immersive for people that really want to load cargo.
Yeah, and it could also be used by NPCs to load the cargo as well. They got into clothes just a little bit more, and they referenced back to the idea that some clothes will only work for men or women, in the sense of, like, for example, if you have an evening gown and a guy puts it on, it might turn into an evening suit, but he's not going to be wearing a dress.
God damn. There's nothing more exciting than like playing Fallout 4 and putting that girl dress on your dude and walking around strutting your stuff. It's funny I mentioned Fallout 4 because it basically does the same thing, but I believe there are some outfits that always have a female look, and Bethesda was just nice enough to give the man the female version as well.
Now, the general clothing, of course, will be available and automatically adapt for male or female, so like your t-shirts, your pants, and stuff like that. Now, this next part I found to be very interesting. Character genetics. Now, what they want to do is when you create a character, to pick a particular planet that you come from. Now, within that planet, there is a certain set of parameters, genetics, if you will, from the people who are living there that define a rough boundary of what your character can look like. So people from this mining planet may have certain traits, and people from this rich, wealthy Air City planet may have a certain kind of trait. And it can reflect in not only the facial structure, bone structure, but for example, if the air is toxic or it has a certain chemical in the air, maybe there's even a hue or a tint to the skin. So I know what's going to happen. If there's any plants out there to give you a blue tint, there's going to be like a bunch of people putting red eyes and blue tint, and we're going to have like 1,000 Admiral Thrawns with various spellings, but nonetheless, it's going to be cool.
What about green? I thought you were going with green for the Star Trek reference.
That could work too.
Yeah. I want to see just absolutely ridiculously buff people on a mega gravity mining planet.
Yeah, I wonder if that would be an interesting consideration, wouldn't it? Like you get your heavies from this planet, like they have lower, like maybe, I don't know how you'd balance it. I mean, they're slower, but they have higher endurance and higher strength. I don't know. I mean, is that even going to be a factor in the game, lifting and carrying capabilities?
I
don't know.
doubt it, but it'd be hilarious to see, like you go to a high gravity world, everyone there is like a bodybuilder, and they're like, "Do you even lift, bro?"
You're walking in and you're like, "Welcome to..." What's he saying?
I think he said, "I'm going to kill you."
Now they want this feature to apply to NPCs as well, because they want you to look at an NPC and be able to roughly identify where they're from. Now they want to apply these regional looks to NPCs, so as you're walking around crowds, you can look at them and you can see maybe where an NPC came from. And that's kind of a cool detail that I think is going to really make the world feel more alive.
Planetary profiling. Ah, I see you're from Tatooine because you hate sand.
I see you're from Alderaan because you've got rocks embedded in your face.
Too soon.
There will not be robots in the game. Cyborgs, yes, through that kind of, I guess, total limb replacement, but there's not going to be any droids or robots. That's not the way the technology went in this universe, so that wasn't a question that came up. And as far as character customization goes, all the current hair selections will probably be replaced with new ones, and while they'll be higher quality than what we have right now, they're not going to be as high quality as Squadron 42, once again due to MMO performance issues. Alright, it's time to move on to calling all devs. Someone asked, will we be getting a maintenance mechanic that will allow us to slow down the wear and tear on an item? And will that item have an indicator that shows its current wear and tear? The answer to that is yes. They're basically going to let you do maintenance to upkeep an item. Eventually it will wear down. I kind of look at it as current state versus max state. There will be an indicator that you can look at to see the current status. Some of those I think they said they're going to incorporate into the MFDs. And of course the MFDs are going to be reworked again down the line, because as this new information needs to be put in, they'll need to consolidate and really just kind of hone in how the MFDs are laid out, what they show you and all that. And that's a given. The MFDs need a lot of work.
I hope the wear and tear system is going to be incredibly subtle. I mean, like something that maybe once a week you'll ever have to even think about, that's one thruster's, not doing so good. Because otherwise it's just going to be a micromanagement, and no one wants that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not no one, but...
Not many. Someone asked about the docking functionality of the Merlin and Archimedes, if it would be functional by 3.6. They say that the docking tech is still being developed. Now, the first ship that's going to have docking is going to be the Hull C, and that's going to be docking to a space station. Once they get that hammered out, they'll start looking at ship-to-ship docking, but wouldn't look any sooner than until after the Hull C comes out. And for those of you tired of flying into asteroids, I wanted to know why headlights aren't stronger so that we can actually see where we're going without smacking into something. Basically, they said they want to make the lights better. One of the considerations and things they're trying to deal with is the fact that because of the size of the environments For example, if you're standing on a planet and at the right angle, a really powerful light could give you like a 4 kilometer, shadow, and shadows are a huge performance hit. So they want to come up with a solution that allows the brighter light still looks good and doesn't like kill the frame rate.
Psst, night vision.
I know, concept, right?
I know.
And lastly, they wanted to know if there were any plans to allow us to move from planet to planet or system to system when we're offline. Like you could buy a ticket for, to fly United Airlines, space version, and set a course for this system. It takes 6 hours and you go to work and you come back and you're at the spaceport. They said they don't have any initial plans for this. They want players to not have risk-free travel. They want them just to take control of their own destiny and fly around and be responsible for their own life or death. They may look into it in the future, but I think this is kind of a weird answer because, we have that we have that passenger transport that, was
Starliner.
The Starliner, right. So obviously, these things exist. And to me, it's like, I don't know. I mean, if there's a risk involved in that, I guess maybe you wouldn't want to take like an airline to like, the nastiest Vandal ridden area ever. But I could see for just traveling within the safe UEE patrolled areas for the most part that your odds of making it should be like 99.9%. I mean, if you want to throw a 0.01% chance in their failure, but I don't see the harm in it. They said, of course, when you get there, you won't have a ship, but that's not necessarily the case. You see, what if you have a lot of ships and you're trying to move them from A to B? So you take a ship over here and you take it to your hangar at your new place, wherever you're moving, and you take an airline back. I'm just going to use the word airline, whatever. But you take an airline back to pick up another ship because you don't want to fly your ship back because you're trying to bring ships over one at a time. And, I guess you get a friend to fly you, but, once again, if the infrastructure's there for these passenger transports, why not just take advantage of it? And there's going to be a lot of people like, for example, I have 38 ships. What if I want to move planets? That's going to be 38 trips. Oh my gosh, I hate myself. The more I think about this.
I wasn't sure we were going to go with it, but I'm basically I can see them not doing it right away, but there's no reason not to work out a mechanic for it later. Yeah. Maybe you can only travel between certain planets because they are in a safe zone. Maybe those safe zones change dynamically based off of, players and pirates and missions and things that go on. But not having that at all, I mean, it's basically a fast travel system, and almost every video game has fast travel.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, but it's done real time, so it's not like you can just press a button and go somewhere else. I mean, you're if you hit that, you're committed. You're on the passenger transport. It's not like you can just,
But they
leave.
don't even have to. They don't have to do all that. They could just have a splash screen come up and saying, "You're on an airplane." Oh, I guess I'm still on the airplane. And then you have a countdown timer. Do you want to sit there and watch it?
Yeah. Do you want to play a different character while your character's moving from A to B?
Yeah, and they don't have to make everything 100% interactive. I mean, again, I like to point this out all the time because I think people take this game too seriously. At the end of the day, Star Citizen is going to be a video game. Video games are meant to be fun.
I agree. I mean, exactly. I agree with your whole point about not needing to worry about the dynamics. You buy the ticket, it logs your character out. You pick a different character, you play with that, and then it'll let you know with a message that, hey, so and so has arrived, and then you could head back, log out with the other character, and go back to what you were doing. I think that's a reasonable solution, and it's not like Hearthstones where you're back on the other side of the galaxy or whatever in like 3 seconds flat. It's reasonable.
Or the Eve when you just transfer clone bodies.
Yeah, there you go. On Thursday, we're going to be finishing up our Land and our Into the Void series, where we basically discuss the game a little bit, and I've given a little bit more time to show off one of the bigger ships in the game, and it is an early development game, so these thoughts aren't final, and as that game's developed, I may go back and look at it later and see where it's standing and give you an update on it. But during the course of this entire week, we're going to be covering Fallout 76. So Lightning Dragon and I, we were on a 9-hour beta the other day?
I think it was 7.
7, okay. Well, the point is we recorded all of it. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the little bits where we're just running around, snipping, picking up emptying buckets or whatever, and kind of cutting to the highlights of things I think are interesting or conversations that we had, and general impressions of the beta as we were playing it. So that's going to be coming out maybe nearly every day this week, because it does come out on the 14th, and I want you to get an assessment of kind of where it stands. Now, some people aren't happy with the game because it's not like a single player RPG. For me, it's like playing Fallout 4 without having a lot of the things that I don't like about Fallout 4, and I get to play with lightning, and, so that's cool. So we had a lot of fun. I have to admit, we had a blast. So we're actually looking forward to tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time. They're doing it again, so I'm going to be there. And it's only going to be for 2 hours, but still nonetheless, it's going to be fun. And since we're finishing Landinar this week, starting next week, we'll be starting a new game called Frontier Pilot Simulator. I was actually just sent this channel's first review copy to go ahead and take a look at it. It's an early access game that's still in development, so I just want to put that out there, but I'm really looking forward to trying this game for the first time. When I look at the videos of it, it reminds me kind of like an aerial version of that Mud Runners game that we played. And a little bit
Spin Tires?
Yeah, a little bit of like an aerial version of Spin Tires and a little bit of Kerbal mixed in. It's a physics-heavy game, and I haven't played it yet. We're going to record a first impressions this week and just give you our feelings on that, because this is cool. So anyway, guys, so that's about it for this week's BlastCast. As always, leave your comments, suggestions, and hate mail for Lightning down below, and we will catch you on the next one.
How dare I like playing fun games? Rah, fun is subjective, and your answers are wrong. Rah.
Typically.
Bye-bye, everybody.